Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the classics here on AOTO Gaming. And so I wanted to start off this very first series on this brand new, well, it's not a brand new channel, but I've decided to find something to do with this channel. And I wanted to talk about the very first favorite game of mine in my youth growing up. So we're going to take a look at that. So let's dive right in and let me showcase you one of my very first favorite video games. So as I said in this episode called The Classics, I'm going to be talking about games that, were interesting and then were quite fun from my point of view, okay? And while today's gaming has evolved quite a bit from what I'm used to playing back in the day, with more realistic graphics and just some pretty insane stories, I'm still more of a retro person. So on this channel, kind of like a channel introduction, I will be live streaming some games that I play from my Android smartphone, whether it's emulated or if it's a game that I'm playing that I downloaded from the Google Play Store. And I'll be doing live streams of those. So if you guys want to join me on those live streams, you certainly can. Subscribe to the channel for one, and you guys will know when I'm live streaming, and you guys can join me for some good all-out conversations while I'm playing a game. So let's dive right into this very first episode of The Classics. And while this is one of my first favorite games of all time, it is not the first game I've ever played. This game is Mystic Defender. Now, Mystic Defender basically ran on the Sega Genesis. Originally, the game title is Spellcaster 2 because there was a Spellcaster on the Sega Master System, but on Sega Genesis, they converted the name from Spellcaster to Mystic Defender, which stars hero Joe Yamato. Now, the storyline of this video game, basically, Joe Yamato basically is a magician who uses his powers to fight off evil, and he is summoned and charged with the duty of rescuing I guess you can't really say princess because she's not titled princess, but her name is Alexandra. She was kidnapped by Zareth and taken to Azuchi Castle, where they are trying to do a summoning ritual to bring back a evil god known as Zao. Now, in the gameplay, it's 2D side-scrolling, and basically you take on all these different monsters. I think one of the more common soldiers to fight in this game are the face-changing phantoms. I mean, literally, when you see them like swapping their hands over their face, they're changing faces as they're rushing at you. And so as you make your way through the different levels to reach the castle, you are collecting different various spells that you can use at your disposal. So your main one is a fireball type projectile, which is your main one that you commonly use. But there are several different ones that you will get. One of them is like a flamethrower. So it shoots like this long ray of flame balls that you can control, move it up and down on the screen to attack enemies. Another one is more of like a spark, I guess you could say. So you set off like, I think 3 or 4 energy blasts that kind of like orbit around you and attack anything all in different directions. And one of the other ones, which I guess you could say it's more of like a mega attack, is summoning this dragon that will like obliterate everything on the screen. So through the gameplay, basically I can say that it's one of those games that I think was well put together in the fact that, when you start the first 2 levels, easy enough, you grasp on what you can do, what your abilities are in the game. But as you progress, the level, it gets harder and harder, which is, to me, I think a game should be. It shouldn't start off completely hard and completely puzzled. It should let you gradually build into it until you get good enough at how you can control the character. And then as you're progressing in the game, it gets harder and harder and harder. And as it gets harder, it makes it harder for you to reach the last level. I think one of the most craziest levels I played is like the world with all the lava and the little juggling pillars. Because, I mean, literally in that one, if you touch the lava, you go right back to where you last, started. So the last platform you were on before you started jumping on those pillars and hopping your way along through the level, if you touch the lava, you go back to that platform and you got to start again. So It's crazy insane because there's all these different monsters that are being released that's intending to prevent you from jumping to the next platform or even knocking you off one of those juggling pillars that you step on that's on the lava. And it just makes things interesting, because even though, like, if you were to calmly play the game, you can manually, you can figure it out by playing the game on how to, make your way across. But because there's so much anxiety of not wanting to touch that lava and get shot back to the last platform you were on, that it psychologically makes things harder for you on that level, which is one of my craziest but favorite levels to play. I guess you could say the music for the game kind of sets the tone, right? That's one of the things that people do kind of pay attention to on the video games. It does have a good soundtrack. And I think in this game, they did a great job of creating a soundtrack for it that kind of immerses you into the feel of the game itself, especially on the second to the last. So, like, I guess you could say the pre-level before the boss level. So when you play that, the soundtrack's actually pretty good. It gets you hyped up because you're in Azuchi Castle and you're gonna fight Zareth, and so the soundtrack just kind of like builds up for it as you're going through it, because it's just more of those things. It's like, all right, you've made it through hordes of monster, you made it through unbelievably tough levels. You're now in the castle and you're on your way into finding Zareth through a maze-like castle. So you have to watch which platform, because they have these elevator platforms, and you have to watch which one you decide to step on, because it can end up bringing you back to the very beginning of that castle rather than progressing through the level to getting to Zareth. So it's more of a combination of a maze, and there's all kinds of weird like technology in there. Like they have this little sphere that shoots out like a 3-dart ray, and you have to dodge that. There's machines that pop up that are fully automatic, shooting these projectiles at you, and so it kind of balances like primitive days meets a technological advanced castle. And so you make your way through this castle maze, and you finally get to battle Zareth. Now the bosses of each level are ridiculously thought up. Like I guess you could say this is the days of innovation. Your very first boss that you face in the first level is like this weird green bat-looking creature that he spins in the ball and then he jumps to try and get you, and you got to figure out how to take him down without being hit or knocked out of a tree. And there are other crazy bosses, but I think the one that really stood out for me was this phantom druid-like creature, because you actually fight him twice in the game. I think it's in the second level when you face him in his druid form. So he's like wearing a hood, he floats, he's like in a prayer position, and each time that you hit him with your magic to kill him, you find out there's more than one. There's actually 5 in that boss level fight, and every time you kill one, it falls down into this cocoon-like boulder. But as you beat the 5th one, you find out there's a 6th one, but you don't battle him in the second level. He comes and he's holding like this apple. It looks kind of weird, like the poison apple from Snow White, but then he zips across the screen, and as he's spinning and zipping across the screen, each boulder awakens into a spider, and then the spiders start following in the direction that you just exited, and basically the spiders are now hunting you. But the bosses are actually pretty cool in this game. I mean, when you get to the lava world, you fight a lava monster. There's 2 of them that come out, and you just have to like blast them in the head to kill them. And then in the world after the lava world, you face this like worm-like creature, and this is where I was telling you, the 6th phantom. He actually comes in. There's this monster that spits out these little yellow dart stars, and you have to dodge those. But when he combines with that worm-like creature, he ends up being a worm creature with like a centaur type upper body that's holding a scythe. So you end up taking on him. And actually all those spiders that followed you, they actually stack on one another to create the worm's body, and then he bonds with it, and yeah, it's just really cool. But yeah, you face him. He's not that tough to beat. But then when you get to Azuchi Castle and you battle Zareth, Zareth is Not really so hard. It's just it's hard to get him because he's flying around the screen. And as he's flying, he's throwing flames out of his sword that hits the ground. So you got to dodge the flames that are like barreling across the floor, jump high enough, and use a magic attack that is going to hit him. Because if not, I mean, he's like, say this was the screen, and you're down here, right? And he's like flying up here. So you got to like jump, shoot magic to make sure it hits him so it knocks off some life points. Because he never touches the ground. He never does. But once you beat him, you get to the final zone. Now, the final zone is absolutely crazy because you're expecting some sort of godlike creature that you're going to have to fight, because that's what they were doing. They were summoning Zao, who was this crazy evil god, godlike powers and everything. But you don't. You see these weird looking faces that have mouths, and you're dodging them and shooting them with your magic to get to the very end of that, which is only a one floor level. So there's not like multiple areas to go through. You just get to the end, and at the end you see this weird looking ugly tree-like creature, and at the very top of it, Alexandra is basically posted up trapped. So it's like there's a mouth on the very top of the tree, and it's enclosed around half her body, so you only see the upper half of her body. And this tree-like mutant creature is shooting out all these little weird ugly monsters, and you have to like just keep attacking the base of the body of this thing until it dies. But all in all, I have to say that this was one of my favorite games of all time to play. I mean, even after I beat it, I continuously went back and played again and again and again. And even in my day right now of emulation, using emulators on my Chromebook, using it on my Nintendo Wii, using it with any electronic device that supports emulation, it is one game that I go back to and play over and over and over and over again. So with that, if you run any type of emulator for Sega Genesis, I would definitely say to find, download, or even if you actually have a Sega Genesis and you are a console collector, this is one title you're going to want in your library. Mystic Defender, also known as Spellcaster 2. Definitely one for the pickup. Even though the boss was weird at the very, very end, still, the gameplay to me is awesome. The soundtrack is amazing. And on top of that, just the vibe you get from playing the game can actually spook you, because I did have nightmares of those face-changing phantoms. But that's it, guys. If you guys enjoyed this episode of The Classics, you guys can let me know by hitting that like button. Smash it so I know that you guys enjoy this. And also hit that subscribe button, and that way you guys can check me out on live broadcasts, or even watch some more episodes of The Classics. And if you have a game that you want me to discuss about that is retro from the classic days, from either Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Sega Master System, Super Famicom, any of those, between 16 to 64-bit game classics, let me know in the comment section of this video, and I will make an episode about it. But until then, guys, thanks for checking out this episode, and as always, aloha.